Greetings and welcome to our class, The Church and the Community. From the information in the instructor niche up in the upper left-hand corner of Blackboard, you can learn a lot about me, as well as my post on discussion board. A lot of my educational ministry and ministry experiences are listed there. But let me just give you a quick perspective about my family. We have 3 children. We have 26 grandchildren. Yes, that's right. Older son has 11 children, including 6 who are adopted. Our middle son has 10 biological children, and our daughter has 5 biological children. So, we are excited about this course and eager to learn with you as we think through the relationship that we have as individuals as well as a congregation to our community. I was raised on a farm in western Illinois. My parents were farmers, but they were also growing Christians as a young couple. When they purchased the farm in 1939, one of their concerns was the spiritual heritage of their children who would be born. The first year they lived on the farm, they drove back to the church they had been part of about 15 miles away as often as they could. Travel was not easy in 1939. But then in 1940, they were key people who helped open a closed church there about a quarter of a mile from the farm. God powerfully used their commitments and their participation to establish a church plant when church planting was not even on the radar anywhere. But that church has continued to thrive. Just this week, my wife and I drove past it again and rejoice over the worldwide impact that country church has. 10 miles from town, out in the middle of nowhere, but God has significantly used us. I was raised on a typical family farm of the 40s and 50s. We raised beef cattle, hogs, had a small dairy herd. We raised chickens for meat and eggs. And then, when I was somewhere around 12 years old, on a Sunday afternoon when my dad's siblings and their children gathered, my uncle had a ewe which had triplets, and he was going to kill the runt unless some of the cousins took it. He didn't think she would survive. However, somehow, I don't know how that happened, but I persuaded my dad to let me have that ewe. And what a God-given invasion of my life. I learned so much about caring for people, caring for sheep, from learning from my little Lucy, my little triplet ewe. I was the youngest of 3 children. When I was about 7 or 8 years old, our church did a mission trip about 25 miles away to conduct a Bible school in a small village. My sister drove the car, and I rode along with other workers in the car, and I participated in Bible school. It was my privilege to learn from the old King James Version, Isaiah 57:20 and 21. But the wicked are like the troubled sea, whose waters cast up mire and dirt. There is no peace, saith my God, to the wicked. God etched those words upon my heart. A few months later, our one-room school teacher took us on an outing. I think another lady drove a car also, but we went to see the flooded Spoon River. As we drove across Highway 9 on the levee where the road was built, I looked out either side of the car and saw muddy, swirling water everywhere. But the wicked are like the troubled sea, no peace. It was soon after that, one Sunday evening, when we got home from church, I went directly to my room, and there it was. I knelt down and asked Jesus Christ to come into my life. what a blessing, and how God sovereignly worked all those various details into my life. I loved school and the multiple activities. I was very, very active and intended to go to the University of Illinois School of Agriculture on 4-H and Future Farmers of America scholarships. But one day, as I was preparing my Sunday school lesson, the Lord spoke to me powerfully by a sentence. It said, "Be sure that what you say is God's will for your life is not your own selfish will." That sent me back to do further praying and consideration as to what God really wanted me to do. In the process, I decided I would go to Moody for at least 1 year and see what God had to tell me as I continued to seek His will. My brother and sister had both gone there, and so I followed in their steps. As I got finished with the first year of Moody, a pastor friend of mine saw me and said, "Come over and see me some evening after you get the chores done." That intimidated me. I was curious what he was going to want to talk to me about. Had he found out I'd put cattails in his bed at camp or something else? But anyway, I went over one evening, and as we visited, he finally got around to the point of what he wanted to talk to me about. There was a church in a small village that had voted the mainline denomination out, and they were in need of a pastor. He wondered if I would be their student pastor and come down every weekend and minister to them. I was stunned. I was 19 years old. I had no idea as to what was happening. But out of respect for him, I agreed that I would go preach for them one Sunday. And they not only appreciated my sermon, but they called me to be their pastor, which meant my schedule for the next 2 school years would be leave Friday after lunch and catch the train to Galesburg, about 200 miles away from Chicago, get my car, do pastoral ministry Friday evening, Saturday, and Sunday, and catch a train back early Monday morning, about 2 o'clock in the morning, and arrive back in Chicago in time for a shower and breakfast and the responsibilities of the coming week. God shaped my life significantly through that experience. I stayed after graduating from Moody at the church for 4 more years before I enrolled at Dallas Theological Seminary. Oh, that village where I pastored, it was the same village where my home church had had Bible school about 10 years before. God works wonderfully, doesn't He? I want to say welcome, and I pray that this journey and this class will be helpful to you. I have intentionally put things in that will challenge your thinking and help us to think through how God wants to use us and our church in the community where He has sovereignly placed us. I look forward to getting to meet you.